Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm just going to make sure that everybody's in and then we'll get started. And Cindy, if you can just keep an eye out for anybody that's joining after and just admit them for me.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Colleen LeBay, and welcome to our very exciting transcribing project. You are all muted, and what we'll do at some point is unmute towards the end, and you can ask your questions. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can also type your questions in the chat window. And on your screen, if you look at the bottom of the Zoom window, there should be an option for chat that if you click on it, it will open up the window and you can type your message in. So we're very excited to be partnering with the Chatham-Kent Public Library on another project. And really anyone who's been in the library and accessed this card catalog is fully aware of the treasure trove of information that it contains, as well as how much everyone missed it while we were in lockdown and no one could get to it. So tonight is our formal kickoff of this transcription project. But the project really started back in May and June when Cindy and I approached the library about doing this transcribing project, and they were pretty excited about it. We came to an agreement on a project charter, and this is where we are now. Between June and September, our summer student, Paige Roman, and I worked with Megan Cowan, who is the local history librarian at the library, and we worked through the detailed plan for how this project would unfold. So during this session tonight, it is recorded, by the way, so that we can make it available on the website for others to view. But during the session, I'm going to cover really the background of the card catalog. And for some of you, you know it better than I do. But just for anybody that's new to it, as well as sort of the phases of the project, what does it look like? And then we'll move over to the transcription website and walk through the instructions and go through a demo, maybe do a couple of transcriptions. And there's time at the end to ask your questions. But if you do have questions during the session, feel free to put them in the chat window. Cindy's going to keep an eye on that. And if it makes sense to ask the question at that time, then she'll ask it. Okay. So maybe we'll just start with the background of the card catalog. And I have up on the screen some pictures of it if you haven't seen it before or you were wondering what that thing was when you walked by it into our library. So really, the card catalog is an index of newspapers, some of the Chatham and Chatham-Kent newspapers. The newspapers are stored on microfilm reels, and if you look at the picture in the top right corner, that's the cabinets where you would find those microfilm reels. And the first drawer says, I think 1841, but I recall seeing a couple of reels in there that might have been earlier than that. They're not a lot, but a couple. So it goes back pretty far, and it covers a number of different newspapers. The card catalog then is an index. So if you're looking for someone, you look in the index and it will point you to an article, it'll point you to which newspaper and the date. So the example card that's down in the bottom left corner, if I wanted to find Arthur Arson, I would go to the drawer for 1937 and find the Chatham Daily Newsreel that covers May 5th, and then go searching for that article. The cards are mostly biographical, so there are 171 drawers, and they average about 1,000 cards. That's what we're finding per drawer. So that's over 170,000 cards. The first 142 drawers are alphabetical, so they're all biographical for people, and then the remaining drawers cover a variety of different topics such as businesses, sports, crime, insurance. There's a number of different topics in there. And so our goal is to get those all digitized and transcribed. That's really what the project is. Are there any questions so far? Is everyone comfortable with what the card catalog is? I don't see any. So
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, thanks. So now let's talk about the project. There's 3 phases to the project. The first and probably most important is to get the cards digitized. They are one of a kind. You know, everyone always is talked about, we should really do something with those cards, because if something happened, and you know, I'll just share that the library was closed last week because of water problems, but they've had water problems in that building. Would hate to lose these. There's so much rich information on them. So job number 1 is to get them digitized. And the cards belong to the library, and we will be handing back the digitized copies to the library because they really own them. Phase number 2, sorry, I'll just step back. That scanning started in August and it's ongoing. So we're slightly ahead. We've got about 8 drawers scanned, and we'll continue scanning them as transcribing is going on. The second phase is to transcribe them, is to actually take that information that are on those cards and put them into a worksheet so that at some point down the road, they can become a searchable database online. And that's where we're at tonight, is kicking off this transcribing piece of it. It's a massive project. There's a lot of cards to transcribe. And so we're taking sort of a novel approach to it. And we borrowed this idea from that Niagara branch, is if we put it up on our website and encourage people to go ahead and transcribe when you have time, we'll hopefully get quite a bit of it done. Because, you know, you might have an evening or something, go in and transcribe. You don't have to make a big commitment to it. We also have some very dedicated transcribers, experienced and dedicated, who might be willing to take an entire drawer and scan that. That would be lovely. We would love to do that. If you're that committed, we're happy to work with you and provide the information and the worksheet for you to do that. So that's the second phase. The third phase is really to make this accessible and searchable online. And that's where the library comes in. So our discussions with them, they're likely to go and try and get some special funding, which anything digital right now, you can find funding for because of the pandemic and the changes to the way that we work. But the goal would be to get it into some sort of searchable database that people can go and search, and they know ahead of time, if they're walking into the library, that they're going to find articles related to whoever they're researching. So we're in phase 2. Phase 3 is likely to be later next year, or even possibly 2023. It depends on how long it takes us to transcribe. And we're going to get a sense for that through the fall when we see how much interest there is in it. Okay. So if there are no questions, I'm going to actually jump over to the website and show you. One question I see. If you don't live in Chatham-Kent, will the database be available on the Kent OGS website? So the database is actually going to be part of the Chatham-Kent Public Library's website. The information does belong to them. And as far as I know, it is available to anyone. I think if you're not a resident, you can still get a virtual library card. So I don't think they've figured out those details yet, you know, in terms of how it will be presented, but for sure, there would be a way for you to get access to it. All right, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a minute and flip over to our website. Okay, hopefully you can see what you're seeing on the screen is our website. Is that, Cindy, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in terms of how to get to the project, it is available on our website, and our website is kent.ogs.on.ca. And from the main site, there is a menu option called Projects, and then Chatham-Kent Public Library, Newspaper Microfilm, Index Card, Catalog. Little introduction here at the front, just really talking about the card catalog. We'll eventually replace this register with the link to this video. And then what you see down on the bottom of the screen, this is the project area where you're transcribing. We took some sample cards and transcribed them. So if you aren't sure how to transcribe something, this is meant to be a helpful aid. And then I've already received a couple of questions back that I think they're likely going to come up multiple times. So I've started a list of frequently asked questions at the bottom. The way that the files are stored are by drawer. So if I pop back up here to the cabinet, we're literally following each one of these drawers, and they are alphabetical. So you can sort of follow through. We're through the A's and partway through the B's that we have up there. So 8 drawers are up there out of the 170. There's a lot of cards. Also included some instructions, which you can expand. Maybe you want to see them the first time, and then once you've seen them, you're good and you can make them disappear. And there is, in the instructions, there is a downloadable guide. It's just a PDF that you can download. It has a lot of the information that's available on the screen and a little bit more guidance on how to enter or transcribe information. The transcription project is actually stored on the Ontario Genealogical Society's Office 365 environment. So it's in the cloud, and you don't need to have an account to sign in. You are going to be acting as a guest transcriber. I have seen a couple of times where when you try to access the worksheet or images, it does come up and say you don't have access. Just try it a second time. And if it continues to be a problem, reach out to me and I'll help you with it. My email is in the bottom of the instructions, so you can find it there. Just click on there and send me an email. But for the most part, you should just be able to open them up and begin transcribing. So there's a couple of different ways to make this easy. You are going to be working in 2 windows, and obviously you don't want to jump back and forth. If you were to just open them, and I'll just click on the worksheet and I'll click on the images. If I wanted to transcribe right now, I would have to sort of jump back and forth between the 2 tabs, and that doesn't make for easy transcription. So there's a couple of things that you can do if you want to be comfortable while you're transcribing. First of all, if you have a computer and a tablet, or a computer and a phone, you could set yourself up that way, where you open the worksheet up on your computer, you open the images up on your phone, and then you're able to see both of them sort of side by side. You can also open these each in their own window. If you right click on them, you can choose, normally it defaults to open it in a new tab. You can just open it in a new window. And I'll go back to the website. I don't know, Cindy, are you able to see those when I open them?
No, it's still the same screen.
Okay, I probably need to, I'm just going to stop sharing and share a different way so you can see the entire computer. I sort of knew I was going to need to do that, so I apologize. Okay. All right, let me try this again, and you tell me whether you're seeing everything that I'm opening. So I'm just choosing open a link in a new window. Do you see that when I open it?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll go back and open the images in a new window. So now what you can do is you can play around with the sizing on the windows. And if you want to put them side by side, let's go to find the other window. And you can drag them around and resize them so that you can see everything on the screen. And that's, you want to set yourself up so that you're able to just work with both of them on display at the same time. And that way you can work side by side. While I was researching this, I also discovered that in Windows 10, there is a little feature called Snap. So if I took these windows, just click on the title bar and just drag it to the left, it just automatically makes it half the screen. And I can do the same with the other window, and it automatically makes it a half a screen. You could do either. You could manually resize them yourself, or if you wanted to try that, I did include instructions in the instruction section. There's a little link to a video that shows you how to do this. So you just need to come up with what works best for you. If you happen to have two monitors, not everyone does. I don't have two monitors, but if you do, you could also open one on one monitor and one on the other. So what we're looking at here is the first drawer. So the first drawer is A to Allah, and these are each of the cards that, I'm sorry, I have a cat that wants attention right now. These are each of the cards in that drawer. Just a little note, it's starting at card 8 because the first 7 cards were sort of a title of what the collection was, and we need it for preservation, but we don't need it for transcription. So they're not in here, they start at 8. And then this is your transcription worksheet. So it's been up there for, I'm going to say less than a month, and people have been transcribing. I think we're up to about 127 that have been transcribed. Just in terms of how to transcribe, so we spent quite a bit of time on this worksheet and sat with Megan, the local history librarian, to make sure that we were collecting the right information. And I'm just going to, we want to go to start with image 128. I'm just going to actually pull up the next image. So the key for what we're looking for is really that there's an article and there's a date. And you're going to find on some cards, there's a multiple article and multiple dates. But each row in the worksheet should reflect one article. In terms of what you're entering, so we are capturing the file name. And you'll notice over here, it doesn't really tell you where the file name is. Let me just move Cindy out of the way here. There is a little information button that you can toggle on or off. When you put that on, it'll actually tell you what the image file is. I've also, because I typically only do a couple at a time, I just try and remember what it is. But if you're doing a number, you might want to toggle that on so you can see the name of the file. Then we are capturing the name, and we want to capture them exactly as we see them. So it's typically last name, comma, first name. If there is a maiden name or family name, it's included in brackets. And so we want to see those entered exactly as we see them on the card. The next column is the type of article. And we tried to select types that are common. And you'll see that there's actually a drop-down list here. So you have to put one of these in. You can either type it or you can pick it from the list. But we've got all the standards: birth, marriage, death, funeral, anniversary, birthday. I'll explain what the reference is. I'll show you a card for that. And then there's NA, which is just for anything else. So if it's just an article about something, you can use NA. But you have to pick one of these. The next column is the transcription itself. So it's this section here. And if there are multiple lines or hyphenated lines, we want you to just enter them as you see them, but just put a comma in between each of the pieces of information. So let me see if I can find one here. So here's a good one. So there were quite a few pieces of information on this card, just a comma and the next piece of information is what we're looking for. The next column is the page number. Not every card has a page number. Some do. This specific one does. So we just want the number. We don't want the P or the period, just the number itself. And then the next column is the newspaper. It is also a drop-down list, and it's actually surprising how many newspapers there are. Obviously, Chatham Daily News is the most common one. Probably the next one is Chatham Daily Planet, but there were a number of different newspapers to pick from. And so you just want to pick the one that matches what's on the card. Again, you can either type it or you can, like if I start typing CD, it's going to pop up Chatham Daily News, or you can choose them from the drop-down list, but we want it to match one of those. And then the last column is the date. And so there should only be one date. If there's more than one date on the card, that means you're entering more than one row in the spreadsheet. And the dates, we just want a standard date, exactly how you see it, but just ignore any periods. Just put in the months, the day, comma, and the year. And we can do something with that. If we choose to change the format of the date, it's fine because we can manage that behind the scenes. So that's basically it. Every card will have one or more entries on the spreadsheet. Now, one of the questions that came up, and it's a really good question that I actually had the question for myself, is in this worksheet, multiple people can be transcribing at the same time, and that's fine. It's actually what we want. We want as many people as possible to transcribe. So if you have a card that has more than one article on it, how do you make sure that someone's not typing in a row that you want to be in? And the answer is it doesn't really matter. If you happen to put, if you happen to be on, image 128 and there are 2 rows and someone sneaks in there and puts 129 in, just go down a row. These worksheets are moderated. I check them every day. And if I have to, I'll just resort them and they will be in order the next time you go in. So it's less about how they look and more about getting the information in. And if you're really concerned, where you just don't feel comfortable working in a worksheet where someone else is also working, just jump down to one of the other ones. There's 8 drawers there. The first one has the most activity. I think some people have started in on the second one. You can just drop down to one of the other drawers. And then again, I said, if you're really dedicated and you're committed to transcribing the whole drawer, I'll give you your own drawer if that's what you want. Okay. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and transcribe this card, and then we'll look for one that I'll go through the different types of cards and how you might transcribe them. One of the questions that has been asked multiple times is, what is that little B that's up in the top right corner of the card? And it actually stands for biography or biographical, and it doesn't need to be entered anywhere. It's not any useful information for what we're looking for. So this one happens to be an anniversary. So I can actually either choose anniversary from the list, or I could have just started typing ANN and it would have popped up. We'll put this in. A lot of pressure when there's people watching while typing. Okay, there is a page number, so I'll put page number in. So here I can either choose CDM from the list, or I can just start typing C and it will come up, and I'll just select CDM. And then the date. And that's a 1 card transcribed. Any questions popping up yet, Cindy, in the chat?
Nope, nothing so far.
Okay, I'm actually going to pop back a couple because there's a card here I would like to show you. And it's card number 126. Now you'll see this one here that it doesn't really refer to an article, a newspaper article. What it refers to is when someone has been referenced in an article under a different name or a different spelling of a name. Typically, this reference card will be in there to say if you're looking for Wilfred Abrahams, see John Wilfred Abrahams. And so we would like to capture those. And this particular line should be a reference. And I'm actually interested as to how come that's blank. But I'm going to set it to reference. So here's where you would use the reference type. And all you're going to enter in is the name, it's a reference, and here's the reference. There's no newspaper article, there's no date, and that's fine because at the end of the day, when this turns into a database and someone's searching for Wilfred Abrahams, they'll get all the articles and they'll also get this reference note to say, look for this name. So it's important that we capture it. I'll have to go back and figure out why they were able to just leave it blank, because that's not what we want. We want them to be forced to choose something. So,
comments too now, Colleen.
Okay. Do you want to read them back?
Sure. So Mark is asking if there are annotation corrections, do we put the original info and the correction or just the corrections?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
If there are annotated corrections, like I've seen it where somebody has taken a pencil and they've added like a little note on it. So I think that's what she's referring to. So it's the question is, do we just put the original and the corrections or just the correction? Or I guess just leave it with the original?
I would put everything you see in this, right, in this transcription area, put the original, and then you can just put annotation and the correction. Because we'll leave that for the library to decide what they want to do with it. I've also seen some marks on the backs of the cards. Now those I've not done anything with because I don't know that they could have just been a patron that was in and scribbled on the back of the card. But if it's actually marked on the card, that typically would have probably been the librarian that did it, then just put it in exactly how you see it and note that it's been annotated. Okay,
and then Donna's here now, and she said, I'm assuming that you can use two computers instead of a computer and phone. If so, do you have to sign in twice?
You don't have to sign in at all. Donna, I think you came in after I covered that part. So you are a guest. You don't need to sign in. When you click on the link, it should just open up, and this GC is guest contributor, so that's me, and that's what you should see as well. If you get any error messages, I just try it one more time, because sometimes Microsoft is just a little touchy. If that's still a problem, send me an email, but I've tested this every which way I can think of, and you should be able to get in. Not to say that there aren't problems, and you guys will find them. We've tried to think of everything, but you'll find them. So please share if you run into anything.
And then Marg has another question. So also, do we correct any spelling errors?
If it's a name, I say no. I'm going to say no, because I believe the name is exactly how it is in the article. If it's the word wedding, for example, that's spelled wrong and you know it's obviously spelled wrong, yes, by all means, correct that. But any names, put them in exactly how you see them, because I believe that that's the reason why they have these reference cards, is you'll see them where someone has mistakenly typed the name. They'll have a reference card as well.
So you bring up a good point, Colleen, and the one that you're on right now, Wilfred is spelled with an E, and then it says C, and with the Wilfred is spelled with an I, but whoever did the transcription put the E in both of them.
This one here. Yep, that's bound to happen. I'll just correct that right now. Whoops. Okay, I will try and correct that right now. So, there could be typos that are done through transcription as well. That's just a risk of what we do. I have been sort of eyeballing these to see how they're going, but there's no way I'm doing 170,000 of them. So is there a risk that we might have some typos? Yep, there is. It's just sort of, we take that risk. I also noticed here that 127 doesn't have a date, and it probably should. So those are the sort of things that I will definitely be able to check, because when a drawer is done, I'll go back and I'll say, okay, are there any that are missing dates? Okay, well, what happened there? I'll be able to do a little bit of validation, but obviously there's every possibility that there could be mistakes.
So Colleen, do you think there might be a point where we might ask for some proofreaders just to do that, switch out, take a different drawer, and just kind of go through and do a quick proof? And
spot check them? Yeah, I think if we get far enough in, we can look at that.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I'm hoping that some of the validation, like the fact that I hopefully have locked the newspaper and the type down so that you can only choose certain types, that eliminates a problem there. Probably we'll be able to flag on dates that are missing, but yeah, that's a good idea to maybe do some quality control check and see how things are going.
Another question, I also found a place name after the name, so I put it in the transcription section rather than after the name. Is this okay?
Yes, that's fine.
So I actually ran across this one when I was doing one, and the place name was Guilds. So as I'm doing it, it was John Smith, quotation mark Guilds. And I was like, okay, is that their name? And now, me not being from Kent County, though, I might not know that that is a place instead of a name. So then I went back and looked at a couple of the other ones who actually had, for example, you can see right now, Wallaceburg or Coulter. So I did the opposite. I went back in because it was beside their name, thinking, okay, I likely should probably leave it where it's at. So we might get some discrepancies on that. Just like I said, because I'm not from Kent, I maybe didn't know that was a name place.
Yeah, I would say if you're in doubt at all, type exactly what you see. Obviously, people that are more experienced and especially with the area, it'll be obvious, but is it going to hurt anything? No, it's not going to hurt anything if it's there. But the rule to fall back on is everything that you see, type it in.
Okay.
So
I think that's it for questions right now.
Okay. So this is an interesting card. Actually, I think she's got 2 cards. Please tell me you have 2 cards. She does. Okay. So Miss Esther Elizabeth Abram was a busy lady. So she's actually got 2 cards. Maybe actually, does she have more than 2 cards? No, but she's got a reference. Okay, so for these, this is a good one to look at. Even though she has 2 cards, they are actually 2 separate images. So for image 129, which is the next one, you would actually have 4 entries, right? So appointed a principal, there's a picture, she was elected to the executive of the public school board, and then she was elected president. There would be 4 lines here under image 129. And then on the next one is another 5 all the way through to her death and funeral. So then there would be 5 that would be for image 130. So even though she's got more than 1 card, it is actually 2 different images and should be referenced as such. I'm going to actually go back to my other window where the samples are. So we did try to capture some different types of cards and give you an idea of how they should be transcribed. This is one that we haven't talked about yet, and that's where there's other information, such as a section. And I'm just going to open that one up. So we tried to account for the most common information. And every once in a while, when something like this shows up, it's like, well, where do you put it? So in this instance, there's actually 2 articles. So there's 2 rows, but the first article was in a section of the newspaper. We actually just put it in the transcription content because we don't have a column for section, and I don't think there's enough of them that it warrants having a column. So anything that you can't find a place for, just add it on under the transcription area. Does that make sense? I think we've covered the rest of them. So reference cards, we talk about that. Cards with multi-events on them. And then the little B in the corner that you don't need to transcribe that. We may find more of these. So we've been through probably maybe 10,000 cards so far. If you come across a card that has something unique on it and you just really don't know what to do with it, please reach out and just give me the drawer and card number, and I can add it on the sample cards if we want someone to do something different. That will help everyone who's transcribing. But I think we'll be really smart at the end of this once we get through all of them. But certainly this has been a learning experience for us, and I think we're going to learn even more before we get through all the cards. I think that's pretty much. Oh, one other very important thing. Let me. Did I close that? No, I didn't. So when you're entering entries into these worksheets, you don't have to save. It's not necessary. They're set up to automatically save. So when you're done, you just close them. Just close the window, and it'll save. If you're a little hesitant, leave it sitting for a couple minutes before you save. If you're worried that, oh, it didn't catch the last entry, just give it a couple, maybe 30 seconds and close it. But it does automatically save every so many seconds as you type things in, so you don't have to worry about that. They're also backed up automatically online. So if someone, not saying that anybody would do this, but if someone went through and just said, I don't like these people, I'm just going to erase all this, I can get it back. I'll be able to go back to a previous version. If you see something destructive, again, just let me know and I can recover it. I think I've captured everything. Is there any other questions?
I'm not seeing any more.
Okay. And again, this is so massive project. We are over the moon that we got agreement from the library to do this, because obviously everyone can see from the cards that there's really good genealogical information on them. And we are so appreciative to everyone and anyone that's willing to transcribe. So there are 8 drawers there. You can start on them. You could get off this call and go start transcribing if you want. If you would like the option of me just assigning a drawer to you, just send me an email to this email right here, and I will be happy to get you a drawer. I just need to test a few more things. I'm actually testing with Goldie to make sure that it'll work. And then if you want to do that, I'm happy to just give you your own drawer. But these 8 will sit out here for anyone to just pop in and transcribe 1 card or 100 cards, whatever you want to do. And with that, I'll just say thank you then, if there are no other questions.
Mark is just asking to show your email again, but Mark, you can just go to the website there as well and click on that the little plus sign.
Just a little plus sign right here. The instructions I covered. I talked about some comfortable ways to scan, the link to the downloadable guide, and there's my email right there. And if you can't find me here, you just pop a note into our Facebook page and say, I'm looking for the Transcribe lady. And we'll get in touch with me.
So the instructions that Colleen mentioned as well, the first time I did it, I downloaded it as well. Very detailed, very user friendly, very Cindy friendly, because there's lots of photos and examples. So you might want to download that as well and keep it handy for the first few times, but super, super helpful. So Colleen and Paige, and I'm sure Steve did so much work on this project behind the scenes. It's amazing.
I have to give a lot of credit to Paige. She's our summer intern for the second year, and she's doing her master's in information. I think it's information science. And so she did a lot of the guide and even the worksheet. She did quite a bit of time researching that, talking with her professors, talking with Megan about how the information should be organized, and very appreciative to her for the amount of time that she put into this.
For sure.
Good. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, happy transcribing, and thank you. If you have any questions ever, please just reach out, or if you see anything that, oh, she probably needs to fix that up, just reach out. I will be happy to hear from you.
So get your friends and your neighbors and your grandchildren and your great grandnieces, and get everybody you know, spread the word, because as Colleen said, you don't need to log in or have special access. And basically, if you can read and type, you can help us out. So spread the word.
It only takes a couple of minutes to do a card. So, you know, I've even done it while I'm waiting for somebody. I'm like, oh, I'll go just transcribe a card. Also see how many other cards are transcribed.
Yeah, lots of people saying thank you. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, Colleen. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Oh, Donna says a long winter. Lots to do.
Yeah.
Long winter. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.